And we're back. Another episode of the AC Milan Zone podcast. Welcome back, Oscar. Not a happy one.
Hi,
We see the
Stefano.
score in between us. Lot to talk about. I think we'll get a nice little rant in for the Cremonese game. We'll talk about the transfer market, all the craziness. Last we left off, we had gotten Boniface, apparently. Spoke too quick on that one.
Mm.
And then we can have a look at Lecce and what we think. We said on this podcast, I said we could win the Scudetto. Let me address that first before I pass it over to you when we talk about Cremonese. Look, I said we had the Napoli playbook. You know, we had a terrible season, finished 8th, changed coaches in between, and now we had no Europe. We had a solid Italian coach who's won the league before, and we were going to come back. Look, Napoli lost 3-0 against Hellas Verona the first game last year. We only lost 2-1. Honestly, I'd say we are already ahead of them.
Yeah, we might as well wrap up the whole season. We won
So
it.
exactly. So I stand by it. No, not really. But what did you think? Big opener, game at home. Even though the stadium was really quiet, maybe we'll get about. We can talk about that as well. Big loss against Cremonese, who came fourth in Serie B last year. First time they beat us in San Siro, I believe, since 1994. What do you think? All bad? Something good? What can be changed?
I think a lot more. I think it just seems like we carried over from last season into this season with sort of the exact same pattern. Overall bad because we lost it. At the end of the day, the results, the final result at the final whistle is what we care about the most. I saw in your reel that you posted on Instagram on AC Milan Zone that the stats were sort of favoring us, both with XG, with passing was something crazy. And it looked like we should have dominated this game, and on paper we did. But again, two mistakes, two defensive mishaps, not individual mistakes per se, but again, it was sloppy defending. We weren't set up right, and we, just like last season, we seem to concede really easy goals, often from crosses.
Yeah, no,
So
fully agreed.
it's not a great start. I feel like we should have gone off, like you say. We've set up this season with, I shouldn't say low expectations, because AC Milan should always have the expectations of qualifying for Europe or the Scudetto. But we were quietly optimistic, uh, and it started in the worst way possible, honestly.
No, agreed. The stats are kind of crazy because I'm gonna put some of them up on screen. As Oscar said, go check out the reels on Instagram for some more info. But to put something in perspective, something I realized only today, which is kind of crazy. Inter, of course, and we can talk about how all the other competitors, although I'm not really sure where competitors is. We might have just lost to one of them apparently. Um, uh, Inter won 5-0. They had less expected goals than we did. And they conceded 0 goals and had, obviously, Torino had much higher expected goals than Cremonese did. So Cremonese managed
Yep.
0.21. Torino was at 0.8 to 0.9. And we had 1.92 expected goals in this game. Inter only managed 1.5 and scoring 5 goals of that. Now we can get, XG is not obviously how you win games, clearly, and it's not, live or die statistic. But I think that shows a lot that it's not terrible. I think we struggled to create, and we could have done more. But there is many worlds in which we win this game, and don't come out looking incredible, but it's the conversation is different. That's why it makes me not worry too much. But there are a few things that are very concerning. I think one of them is personnel. It's a little bit shaky. It doesn't seem like Allegri got his man, and now it seems like we are willing to panic buy more into his request. Obviously,
Yeah.
we spoke briefly about Boniface and his medical falling through. And then we tried to pivot into getting Harder, who I don't think would have been the answer for us, even off the bench. Maybe the kid turns out to be a stud, but he was a promise in Portuguese football, let alone at Milan. That transfer seemed also to be done. We were all expecting him to hop in a plane. That hasn't happened. It looks like because Sporting was waiting for their replacement for him from Panathinaikos. Panathinaikos was waiting for them because they're playing on Thursday. And then eventually I fell through, and now Milan is moving on because time is ticking, and we have literally two forwards, I should say, for three positions against Lecce. So now it looks like Dusan Vlahovic is definitely not signed. We can't say that anymore with Milan. We can't just go out and make these big statements. But it looks like, pardon me, it looks like he's the name that Allegri wants, and that the management is kind of willing to bend over backwards to get him. Him and Rabiot, which we can also talk about. But I think we saw a lot of that personnel lacking. I think we saw a lot of confusion in midfield. We saw a lot of players playing where maybe they shouldn't, especially Fofana. We saw maybe players that shouldn't start. We'll talk about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I know we both are quite heated about him. We saw a system that maybe didn't fit the players that we have. We had technically three center backs on the pitch, but Tomori was playing fullback, and that doesn't really help when in playing against a very defensive side. The middle of the park is very congested. You hope that your fullbacks are making some run down the wing and creating space. You don't want a center back playing fullback. So the personnel is really what worried me. Obviously, we had a thin bench as well, given the fact that Leao was out, no striker. Yes, that's concerning. Hopefully, we can fix that without panicking too much in the last few days of the transfer market. But as I said, with the stats, I'm not overly worried. I think the two goals that they created were very silly mistakes that can be. They can definitely be repeated, but they can also be easily fixed. It was literally two midfielders that were kind of lost. And again, this is how the team is built. I think he put Modric as CDM because he knew that we weren't gonna be able to get him the ball if he was playing two forward, and we needed someone decent on the ball. But then he's not the one that's supposed to be crashing defensively and helping out back. And we saw Ruben Loftus-Cheek on the first goal and Fofana failing that. Two crosses. Look, Cremonese puts in two crosses. You have a big personnel both in midfield and in defense. You got to be able to clear that, and we just weren't able to. But I think that can get cleaned up. Now, you'd hope that, Allegri's been here now for several weeks. That was cleaned up before the first game of the season. But I don't know. As I said, it wasn't too scary. We didn't create a lot, but it's not like, I still think it's an improvement over the worst games we played last year where it was literally nothing. So, yeah. I want to see also when Leao comes back. It's terrible. It's a terrible start. It's a terrible vibe around the team. Winning cures everything, of course. But I'm not willing to write us off quite yet. How about you? Are you more pessimistic or?
Not. Yeah, you're right. It's the first game of the season. Hopefully, should be an easy enough mistake to fix. But at the same time, it just feels like it's the same old story uh, for the past almost 2 years now. Just
That's true.
we concede so many easy goals, and when we're dominating a game like this, we just can't put it to bed. And I thought it was a bit strange of Allegri's substitutions and also who he called up to start the game in the starting 11. Estupinian, obviously, we signed him to replace Theo. I don't think anyone in the right mind would think it was a direct replacement, but definitely a decent enough left back just to do their job. I didn't think he played very well. And then all of a sudden we're starting Fofana and Ruben Loftus-Cheek over Ricci, who I feel like played almost every single minute of preseason.
Yeah, Richie was a strange one. Also because he warmed up, was ready to go to come on with Jashari, and then was just sent back to the bench, and we didn't see him as well. That was bizarre.
Yeah, I thought that was really strange. So, and then when we're chasing a goal out of those three midfielders that we were already playing, I think it was Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Fofana, and Modric. Guess who we subbed? When we're chasing a goal, it's Modric.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe it could be legs. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be
maybe that
legs
was the
and
reason.
age, but the
At
other
the
two
same
weren't offering
time-
much, and you're
Exactly.
down. You rest him next game when hopefully you're winning. I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah,
especially because I
very
thought
bizarre.
he looked so much better a little bit forward. He had a little
Yeah,
shot. We struggle so much once we actually get in their half and we are on the edge of the box and they're all closed up, just passing the ball around. And his creativity there could be huge.
mm,
I think reaching in front of the defense, as you said, played every single minute and looked good in the summer. Um, Jashari looked pretty good, I thought.
mm, yeah,
Small minutes and obviously a weird broken down game, but I thought he looked pretty good.
yeah. No, I
Unfortunately,
think so. I
go for
think
it.
I think it's, and again I said that about how we concede goals, as it feels like it's the same thing over and over again. It's the same thing going forward. We come to the final third and then we just sort of we pass it around and then we try like a little through ball that is slightly too wide or slightly too far or too deep, and the chance sort of fizzles away, whether that's in a counter attack or in build up play. We saw this even under Pioli sometimes before the Scudetto and even after the Scudetto. We get to the box and we don't seem to have either the quality of players to find that through ball, or we try to give it to Leao and ask Leao to dribble three defenders because he's already got two players on him. Pulisic has added that since he came to Milan, that he can either find that through ball or find a small opening and bury it in the bottom corner. But it's feels like it's just, we're just here repeating ourselves over and over again, season after season. So saying that, it the game wasn't terrible. We weren't just on our day, but hopefully this is the first game of the season. I would have thought that they came out fighting. Well, not fighting, but at least come away with 3 points against last season's fourth place finish in Bari, Serie B.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it almost felt like the fight is interesting. I seen a chat expectation about Lecce. We'll get that in a second. To that in a second. There almost was too much. You could see that there was some nervousness. There was a lot of like trying to rile up the crowd early on. I saw Fofana win like a throw in and like celebrate like it was the game saving tackle of a derby in the first half. And don't get me wrong, that's good. That means, they're trying to show passion and trying to psych themselves up. But I think we saw that sort of like anxious energy turn into really something bad once we went down and we
Yeah.
started to chase. I think, Tomori was doing a lot of yelling at the referee, which he always does,
Oh my
and on his own
God.
teammates. We saw Jimenez, who might be on his way out. This is the young one, Alex. Getting a very dumb yellow card out of just
Oh,
frustration and anger. Now he's got a lot of growing up to do. He seems like he might be on the way out to Como because of some infighting that potentially has happened with him being late and not so good behaviors in training. But yeah, I think we saw that little nervous energy, especially once we were down.
that's true. That's true.
I do think that everyone's piling up on Fofana and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Fofana, I'm less bothered about. He did not have a great game, but it seems like I feel bad because he was trying, he was getting involved. I'm upset, of course, that he after shots that he takes are not, on target. But I can't really
Yeah.
blame him for it. It's not like he's aiming to shoot off target.
Yeah.
Ruben
Honestly,
Loftus-Cheek is the one that bothers me more.
I'd be surprised if we didn't find one of his shots in one of our backyards here in Switzerland,
Yeah, I mean,
because it's
shocking.
actually dreadful. But again, like you say, it's not like that's not really his responsibility, I guess, to a certain extent. But his shooting is absolutely woeful.
Yeah, I mean,
I
if we have a
it's
midfielder or three and we're trying to replicate, not that we aren't, of course, we are not there. But if we're trying to say, okay, we want to have a Modric, Kroos, Casemiro, Fofana is the Casemiro of those three.
yeah, yeah.
He's there, big body, a lot of running, can do some passing, but you're not putting him in the edge of the box, slotting them top
Mm,
corner. So I would like to see him a little bit more back and Modric a little bit more forward. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is the one that frustrates me by far the most.
he is really no man's land.
Yeah, and I'm sure he trains well because every manager seems to love him, and obviously he's got the physical prowess and the potential to be dominating, but he literally never does. He literally never does. I
Yeah.
saw Ambrosini spoke about this in the aftermath of the game. He just seems so at ease with just kind of floating through the game, not getting the ball. Even the pressing is annoying. He like runs up and then stops 2 meters in front of his guy and never goes for actually the ball. He's just like
Mm.
pressing, just like be like, oh, okay, I'm here. Now you should pass the ball.
Yeah, and I think
And
he ran the second most in the Milan team. But again, like, what? There's no point in running over 10 kilometers if it doesn't have a meaning to it, really.
yeah, it just turns
We
into
so
empty
rarely
running.
see him in full. We rarely see him in full sprint. He doesn't have a great touch. His passing abilities are mediocre at best. It's not that Ruben Loftus-Cheek we saw against PSG. I think it was 2 seasons ago,
Yeah,
where we were really, because that was one of the, I think it was like our third game or something, second game in the Champions League, when he just come to Milan, and I was really hopeful because you saw that he was dominating and just making those 50, 60 meter dashes with the
yeah,
ball, and I'm like, this guy can carry the ball. This is perfect for us because we had at that time we had Benacer,
yeah,
who isn't really much of an engine like that. He was supposed to be a bit more holding, and I thought, you know what, that's going to be perfect. But no, he's just sort of like Ambrosini said. It doesn't seem to like nothing he does has a proper meaning or purpose to it sometimes.
yeah.
Um,
And maybe it could be
and
good
maybe it's
as
a
a
lack of
sub,
skill. So
or in a team where everything works well, and he's not forced to carry anything. He's just sort of a cherry on top, the guy that comes in like when he scored 10 goals, even though they're all tap ins, but just that.
yeah,
But I think the sooner we move on from him, the better. I still think
yeah,
Fofana could play, even though again he obviously didn't have a great game. But yeah, I mean, Ricci and Jashari need to come in definitely for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Estupinian in a rough game as well. Don't let
hmm,
the assist fool you. He seemed like a fish out of water. And again, we know he's not Theo, like you were saying. But yeah, it just seemed like even like controlling the ball, he was struggling a lot in that first half. And there was a noticeable difference once we put on Alex Jimenez, who seemed more comfortable, very attacking, tried to dribble past his man, making good runs. So I expect him, unless we sell him, of course, which is obviously that possibility. I expect Jimenez to start. I do think that Estupinian, again, once we figure out that we can just give the ball to him like we used to give it to Teo and be like, okay, make something happen, make a run,
yeah, yeah.
but let him play in his role,
Get used to it.
exactly. Let Leao create some
New
space,
league.
put in some crosses. The cross was very good off his assist. He's not one to throw away, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the short term he's not selected. Those are all the negatives. The positives, I thought, defensively stuff because I thought we were pretty solid. Like we conceded so few chances, we were shutting them down. It's just the crosses that we gotta put together, and I don't really think those are the center backs' faults as much as Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Fofana on each of the goals. Of course, the communication goes both ways, so they each got caught in
Yeah,
the middle. So
and maybe expect the sort of almost 190 meter Gabia to attack that ball, or Pavlovic as well. Yeah,
yeah,
I
or at
think you
least be
highlighted it
closer.
on the
But
reel that they were looked. Gabia was a bit like looking around, like who's going to sort of shouting, directing when the ball's about to come in. That's not really how it's supposed to be. I'm not
yeah,
sure if they're doing man-to-man marking or if it's supposed to be zonal. I
I think
just,
they didn't know, which is the problem.
yeah, they didn't know either. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully easy mistakes to fix. So
yeah, you can't have the try to figure out who's who as the ball's in the air. You gotta know. There's gotta be a
yeah,
game plan way before we even set our cleats on the pitch, and we gotta know. But I thought Salamakis was good. Um, just glue guy going forward, going back, a lot of
absolutely.
effort. Pulisic tried his best, trying to come short, trying to go into space. He had a good
Huge.
shot that looked so good to tie it up, and
Mm,
just didn't go his way. And I thought Luka Modric looked very good. I hope
yeah.
that he got tired, that's why he got subbed, and not just because Allegri is a fool. And sometimes in football, it's like this, where you're like, predetermined subs, which I hate, where you're like, oh, it's this minute, we take him out, so no matter what's happening in the game, or we do this sub for this sub, and it's like, nah. He looked so comfortable at all times, just like playing in the
Oh,
backyard,
uh,
like way
he's
below
the
his
proper
level, just,
maestro.
yeah.
Yeah, a proper maestro. Like it's just, I know it's maybe we're hyping him up a lot more than we should because I can't remember the last time we had that good of a passer in AC Milan. Trying to think. I mean, Benacer sometimes was very good, but not to this level. It just seemed so easy flowing. He just made the easy look, or sorry, the hard look quite easy. and
Yeah.
just executing those passes beautifully. I know I'm not saying just because I used to play football, but like the passes a meter and a half in front of the defender or in front of Estupinian, perfectly curved, so that Estupinian can take it in his stride
Yeah.
rather than having him to pick it up and then take an extra touch and then start going. It's the small things that he's perfected his craft in almost, how many years did he play at Real Madrid? Like 13, 14. Even at Spurs, he was almost that good. So it's nice to see him, and hopefully it was just a bit of tiredness. And he should be starting next game. Otherwise,
Yeah, no
that's one
doubt.
expectation I have for the match against Lecce.
Yeah, no doubt. He had a good shot. Even the little moment of pressure, he gets the ball right against the corner flag, in front of our goal. Little bit of pressure, just like back heel pass to get out of it. Nonchalant, zero.
Yeah.
In a team where everyone's nervous, especially when we're down and there's a lot of pressure, he seems cool, calm, and collected. So
Mhm.
hopefully more of that. I'd like to see him paired up with Ricci and Jashari, or at least one of the two, and see what we can do. And of course, with Leao once he's back. Unfortunately, he won't be back for Lecce, but we'll get that during the prediction. Yeah, and then we saw some poor subs. We saw Allegri asking who could come in as a striker, and his assistant turned around, looked at the bench, and said, "You can put Loftus up there." And Allegri was like, "Sick." So hopefully that's sorted soon. He probably won't be against Lecce. Let's talk, I guess, a little bit about the market before we talk about Lecce.
Mhm.
Boniface falls through. Chukwueze looks like he's on his way to Fulham. We're looking to make about 24, 25 million, which is a great deal given how little he's played and how little he's shown. Musa might be on the way to Atalanta. Jimenez might be on the way to Como. And this would enable us to try to target Rabiot, who I'm not a huge fan of. I like him as a footballer, but I don't like all that he brings, and we have
You mean
plenty.
you don't like that he brings his mother?
Yeah, his mother. Yeah, and we have plenty of drama and bad vibes around. But Allegri is a big fan. I think he could do a lot better at that mid-Zala role that Fofana and Loftus-Cheek were trying to do. He's not that old, but brings experience. I think he's 30, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's Dusan Vlahovic. What do you think? What do you think first of Boniface, and then of these
Yeah.
three players potentially leaving? And apparently we're targeting a center back. The name seems to be very mixed. It looks like we're trying to get after Comuzzo from Sampdoria, from
Yeah.
Fiorentina. Apologies. I would love like a Kim from Bayern. I know he did badly last season, which is why we would be potentially linked. But yeah, talk me through it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Starting off with Boniface, I think I was talking about in the last podcast, but his ACL tears were quite a while ago. I mean, sort of 5 6 years ago, right? That came back to bite me. I just found that quite surprising. That I mean, we were sort of asking ourselves, why is Leverkusen wanting to sell this? For what 2 seasons ago would have been one of the most sought after strikers in Europe for such a cheap bargain, and all of a sudden he sort of flourished within a few days. Now we know why. It's because they probably conducted their own tests, and their preseason tests are like,
Yeah.
this guy's knees are just not holding up
Yeah, and I saw a
whatsoever.
rumor that he tried to do to like a separate trainer to rehab it, and that has done some more damage. So maybe that's also why they were
Yeah.
happy to let him go.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I would, in a perfect world, that would have been great. But with this management, I don't, and also the position and the time of it, I don't think Milan would want to have signed him for, like, say, 4 year deal just for him to be injured and then trying to sell him off. We are unfortunately a business, and that just does not look like the right investment if the goods are damaged, so to
Yeah,
say.
I do have to say
So
on the business line, and I'll let you finish. It does seem like the Americans are very happy to just do this. Do the Rabiot for Musa, the De Winter for Chao. It's we have a very clear, which is a shame because it
in
looks
and
like
out policy
yes,
almost.
they're more interested in the finances than the results. And look, I'm not saying it's bad business. As we said, Chao out for 40, and the Winter in for 20 is great
Yeah, no,
business. If Musa goes for 25, 30, and we get Rabiot for 15, it makes sense. We have this clear target of, hey, we buy players between 20 and 30. We give them a 5-year contract. and then by that you had to sell them. You only lose if you sell them at 12, 15 because of with the way the amortization works in the contract, and that way you're just making money. And when our finances are great, but at some point the finances are great to finance something, right?
Yeah,
So
and then there's a fine line between making good investment and being too stingy. Now we don't want to be a Man United that just go out and buy anyone
sure,
type thing. Let's throw up 65 million for Mason Mount, for example. Even though Mason Mount was in good form, those type of signings just sort of out of the blue. Um, so it's a fine line between wanting to invest and being too stingy. And it seems like we're in and out policy, but end of the day, I think they need to realize that you need to spend a bit just to cover yourself, because otherwise you will miss out on Europe altogether, like we did last season.
yeah, again,
And
that's
decide, you
a
know
lot of
what,
money.
we're gonna go get Feyenoord's best striker. No disrespect to Santi Jimenez, but Eredivisie isn't Serie A, and you go and splurge out almost 40 million euros in the last few days of the winter transfer season, and that seemed a bit panicky. It seems like we're doing the exact same thing now again.
Yeah,
That we've got, was it? Yeah, I mean, we're the 27th of August. We have, like you said, two proper attacking, uh, I guess, strikers, if you want to call Chukwueze a striker, but not really. Um, we only he's up for sale. He's rumored to go to Fulham, which is for that price great. But let's not. Why have we been? Pardon my French. Why have we been dicking around for 2 months when we know that Chukwueze he's never really convinced Milan,
yeah,
whether that be his fault or was the fact that we've had different managers. Why are we dicking around? Like, if it makes more sense if they had this in and out policy and just decided, you know what, let's get the ball rolling. And they did that with Jashari and with Ricci, right? We sold Rangers early on, and then we went and got Ricci straight away.
yeah,
Then we were waiting a bit with Jashari, fair enough, but then we were always going to have two players to cover that Rangers position, right?
yeah,
Bringing him in. But we've always needed another striker. I'm sure Allegri's been, since the day he
yeah. We
came in,
went
he
from
said, "I
four
want two.
to one, and Allegri
Yeah,
likes to play with two.
I want two strikers, like two full proper number nines." Now I think Leao can kind of cover that position if we're playing it like this, but that's a big ask. And then who we're gonna have on the left wing? Oh, well, we're gonna have Estupinian running down that line. So it just seems a bit. I can sort of see what their planning is with the in and out, like sort of in and out policy, but at the same time, it just feels a bit too late. We're all over the place a bit at the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned Jimenez quickly, and we didn't actually talk about him. Where do you fall on that? Because I see a lot of fans already willing to throw him out, and say bring
Yeah,
him, someone like Vlahovic to take it back. Obviously, look, he had a bad game. He was also very alone. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, first I want to take. I'll talk about what
My
I
take, yeah,
think of
my
him.
take.
But
He came in a bad Milan last season with I think obviously he'd only have had one manager, which would have been Conceição, because Fonseca had already been sacked and replaced, but didn't come into the best of Milan. Then he went off to the Gold Cup with Mexico. They happily won it, but I'm not sure if we picked this up last podcast, but didn't he dislocate his finger in the warm up for the final? I
something
swear I
like
read
that,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's just like a stupid thing like that. So that meant I don't even think he came on for Mexico. Then he has a short summer break, obviously because of the Gold Cup, comes back, and we're expecting him to be, top level. I think we need to give Santi Jimenez a bit more time, a bit more time.
yeah, and also a functioning
Time we
team,
might
right?
not have, but yeah,
Like
he's not been around the team too long.
he had two basically CDMs playing around him, not support. Is he a Olivier Giroud that's gonna be able to hold up the ball great and do little offensive flicks to connect to the others? No,
He
but we
can't
saw.
hold against Bachirotto, who happens to
Yeah,
be an absolute unit
yeah,
of a man. But
yeah,
I think just give him time, and it's a new manager, and he's not
yeah.
had all that time, all
And
that
give him
much
some
playing
balls.
time for
Look, he
Milan.
was offside, but the one ball he got, he put in the back of the net. I wouldn't
Yeah,
look. Is he Haaland? Probably not. But I wouldn't.
probably not.
I wouldn't be so quick to throw him out. There were some rumors from Moretto that maybe Milan tried to look at Roma and do a swap for Santi with Dopvik. Santi's agent again came out for the second or third time this summer and said he's not going anywhere. So the player seems to want to stay. But I thought that was interesting. What about the Rabiot, Vlahovic rumors? What'd you make of that?
Vlahovic again. I think I'm not sure exactly what's happened to him at Juventus. I think there's still a lot of football left in Vlahovic. I think it might be he needs to have a new, needs to just have a fresh start somewhere else. Maybe there's been some bridges that have been burnt there. I'm a bit worried about that 12 million euros a season wage that he's got. Hopefully that I think that's been the only issue right now that Milan haven't signed him. Right, almost is that he doesn't really want to let that go. I don't think.
Yeah, I would say that him and his agents. So yeah, continue to if he
But
goes for
yeah,
free, they want a fee and all that stuff.
I think maybe a fresh start with Allegri. I think it was Allegri who brought him into Juventus, right, where he was good in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that could be great because it is a number nine that we're looking for, and I don't mean quite literally on the back of your shirt. I mean like a sort of more rudimentary, quite tall, can finish, is supposed to be in and around the box rather than being Santi Jimenez, who is somewhat of like in between. I'm not sure exactly what role he plays. Do you know what I mean? Like Vlahovic is just your standard number nine that will hopefully get you goals if the attitude is right. He's Serie A proven. He's been in Italy for quite a long time now. I wouldn't be upset with getting Vlahovic at this point of the market as well, right? It's not that we went out and got him straight away and increased his wages. Then I'd be a bit like, that's a bit of a strange investment for us to make. Surely we could have found someone better. But now we've gone to plan plan. I guess we're back to plan A, which was Vlahovic. I can't remember or
Yeah,
it got set
I
the,
don't think
the
they
name,
even know.
but they don't even know. So yeah, this late in the transfer window, if it works, sure, but I think it's Vlahovic who has to push out, right? Because Juve kind of want to get rid of him and his wages.
Yeah, you were waiting
Vlahovic wants to keep them.
for the Colo money, and he's rumored to go for like 60 something, and Juve's in trouble. And yeah, so they looking to get rid of him also because they want to make some money. He walks next year for free. The only thing holding up, is his agent's demand and his salary. I think that can come down though, also because at some point he's gonna want to play football. I'm not against it. Look, I get it. He's had a rough year last year. Um, he's 25 years old. 25.
That does, yeah, it feels like he's been in the Serie A for
Yeah, I
10
know. I
years and
feel
he's
like,
supposed to be
he's now
30.
pushing 30, and he's supposed, Higuain, like when he came to Milan, he's 25 years old. And look,
Mm,
I was not, there was when he himself said, "Oh, it's me and Haaland and everyone else at the top of his power," and then I was definitely like, "Look, no, it is not." But
mm,
let's not pretend that he's a scrub because he's not. This guy can put the ball in the back of the net. He's fast. He's physical.
mm,
He's a finisher. So if somehow, whether it's plan A, plan D, plan Z, we end up with him, I'm not mad at
mm.
that in the slightest, to be honest. Much better for me than Harder would have
Yeah.
been. Much better than Hoyland in my mind would have been. So I'm not against it. If he comes, he probably does start, which means Santi off the bench. But Santi seems like pretty a pretty chill guy who's willing to work for it. And maybe they do play together. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
And Rabiot, yeah, I mean, look, if he behaves and his mom chills out and Allegri likes him and they bond, okay, at least brings in experience. We have plenty of young guys.
Mm. I mean, I'm
And
not sure
yeah,
how much his mother, obviously being his agent, right, how much bearing it has on the locker room and the actual, behind closed doors, right? She just goes out in media. She said the same thing about, was it Mbappe when he missed a penalty for France against Switzerland in the Euros, saying something like why, or she was in the crowd in the box with Mbappe's mother or something and said. Um, like sort of said something like, "Why did your son miss?" or something similar to that. So I'm not sure if that actually impacts the changing room behind closed doors. Now, this whole Marseille issue in the locker room with that English player Rowe, I'm not sure how that happened. I
yeah,
think it was
proper
they
fist fight
lost.
apparently.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who started what, but I mean, looking at those certain clips from that Marseille um, documentaries, De Zerbi runs a very tight ship. We saw how he handled, was it Kone, in the training, saying something like, "Go call your agent." It seems like quite a fiery changing room, and we know certain players in that changing room have quite a bad rep about them. I'm not going to name names, but I think anyone listening to this knows who I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
maybe that could change. Comes back to Italy, that where he's been, goes under with back with Allegri, who he knows. Both of them know each other quite well. I wouldn't be too upset to see Rabiot with tons of experience. I think anything better than Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
At the moment, I would agree.
So
In the chat, Blizzard, shout out to Blizzard. Good to see you. Asking what's up with his mom, with this dude's mom. You mentioned it twice. Rabiot's mom is also his agent, as always has been, and is one to very much act like a mother, who is also an agent, and speak too much and tell the press and his team how good her son is and how he should play ahead of everyone else, which has often in his career created some very uncomfortable situations. So not a great locker room presence overall. Okay, I think we're about just over 40 minutes in. We talked about the absolute shambles of the Cremonese game. We talked about the transfer market, which we'll see again. We have 3-4 days to see how that wraps up. Next up, though, on Friday is Lecce. Camarda's, honestly, I would bet. I think I might actually just put whatever 10 on Camarda goal because it's written in the star for me.
it's written in the stars.
Lecce had a very boring start against another side. It was Camarda versus Colombo in the first game of
I
Serie
saw that.
A, which was hilarious. Obviously, and then a 0-0. No Leao still injured. He's back in some sort of personalized training, but they don't want to risk him, which probably makes sense. It looks like it will be a very similar formation with at least Jimenez and Pulisic up top because Chukwueze is looking to be sold to Fulham, as we said. So not a lot of options. That's all we got. By the looks of it, I wouldn't be surprised if Jimenez starts. We'll get more information after the last training tomorrow, but I think he's ahead of Estupiñán right now. I'm very curious to see what happens in the back. I would not be surprised if De Winter starts, who is also center back but has played more fullback. So I'm not surprised if he gets the right back role. And then we'll see if which two of Tomori, Gabi, and Pavlovic remains. Salemakers would start. We might be more of a normal 4-3-3. So either Pulisic or Salemakers on taking the Leao role. And then we see. I mean, Modric will start as we said. The other two, who knows? It could be Jashar, it could be Richie, it could be both of them. Would be shocked if one of Fofana and Loftus-Cheek doesn't give way. I also wouldn't be shocked if, unfortunately, it is Fofana and Loftus-Cheek stays, because they see him as more of a goal threat. Thoughts on the game? Think we can pick up a win, or and how should we line up? How would you line up?
Yeah, I think I'd get Ruben Loftus-Cheek out and put in either Jashari or Richie. Maybe move Modric a bit further up if Richie comes in. Play Richie as more of that CDM role. Have Fofana be a bit of more of an engine. Alex Jimenez, like you say, is I guess a game time decision depending on whether we're going to sell him to Como or not. So, but ideally, I'd want to see him over Estupiñán. Up front, again, we don't have much choice. But if it's going to be like a 4-3-3, then move Pulisic to the left, play Santi in that centre forward role, and have Salemakers more on the right. Depending on the back three or back four, whatever you want to call it, between Gabbia, Pavlovic, Tomori, and De Winter, it would be interesting to see De Winter play. I don't think Tomori had too bad of a game, so I would be surprised if he gets up that. Maybe I think it's one of Gabbia or Pavlovic that would have to sit this one out. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, we'll see. Pavlovic looks solid. I think he played well. He's also good for one or two pretty big slips a game, though.
But my issue with Pavlovic is that sometimes he makes the easiest thing just look so hard.
Yeah.
Something like a rudimental pass around the back, and maybe it doesn't lead to a mistake and that we concede on it, but it just makes everything look so much harder. But he scores goals for us. His celebrations are always energy filled and enthusiastic. Get some fire into the team. So
yeah,
I think
and at least he tries. I guess that's he always works hard. So I guess you love to see it. I would agree with you. I mean, Tomori's also prone to mistake, to be honest. So I'm not sure that
Yeah.
necessarily qualifies him to start over Pavlovic. I wouldn't mind a Gabbia Pavlovic again. I do think Gabbia needs to stay. I'll be curious to see the Winter take his role. Maybe he's more of a fullback. If Jimenez stays, I'd start him as well. I would go fully Modric, Ricci, and Jashari. But I do think Allegri will still go with Loftus-Cheek. And then, Salamakers and Pulisic with Jimenez. And then, at this point, we just got to get the win. They had a very boring 0-0, as you said, against Genoa.
Yeah. They
0.
sold their
0.5,
striker.
0.3. Yeah.
So to Atalanta. So they have some, I don't know, some 17-year-old up top. Surely he wouldn't score against us, would he?
I can already see him scoring and then
apologizing with his fat neck.
He's looking like he's bulked up and grew, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I also hope that San Siro... Are we playing at home? I'm actually blanking out right now.
I don't think...
no, we play under. That's fine. We play Lecce at home. I hope... Look, the stuff that's going on with the stadium is very serious, obviously. The clubs are cracking down, both Inter and Milan, following some very big police raids that are going on with the involvement of various different mafia groups with everything that has to do with football and the ultras. Especially with Inter, this is true. We saw, Inzaghi and Çalhanoğlu miss some games last year because of their involvement. And the same thing is happening with our fans. But San Siro like this was, oh my God, depressing. Quiet. The only time you heard fans and tifo was Cremonese's fans.
It felt a bit like Premier League.
It was rough. And also because it's not that we go from mild to nothing. We go from a great tifo, our fans were really quiet. So, it's going to take time. It's very serious. And a lot of the banning and moves that the club and the police have made are for a good reason, but there needs to be some
and they've extended it to family members as well, right? To the certain individuals that were in the Curva Sud that have been blacklisted. It reached to their families, no? Yeah. So, or anyone sort of friends and family. So I think that was one of the main points I quickly read one of the Curva Sud members' letters in the press, and it's one of those. I haven't really read about what exactly the allegations are about what they found during the police raids. It's one of those, it pulls on your heart, right? Because realistically, in a real world, should fans like that be involved in a football game? Does that actually impact Milan as a brand name? That's probably how Jerry Cardinale is thinking of it, because he's thinking of Milan more as a brand and like a company, right? Whilst in reality, the fans like that creates such a great atmosphere that I'm sure does help the players in the 85th minute when you're 2-1 down against Cremonese. That would give you an extra boost. Maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek would wake up for once in a while. But it's one of those, it's hard to, even as myself, I haven't been to a Milan game in a very long time. I'm not an ultra or a hardcore fan like they are, and it's easy to brush that kind of commitment aside and be like, well, it's just football. But they are the life of Milan. Have always been, especially in the last few seasons where it's not been great. Yes, we won the Scudetto. There was some positivity there a couple of years ago, but then it's just been downhill from there. And this marriage between Jerry Cardinale, Milan, and this Curva Sud and their perhaps more traditional fan base, it's not really hitting, right? It's always been well, we saw was it last season when we had that Milan Awards, like a foundation dinner. The fans came and they were jeering at almost all the players, not only for how we were performing at the time, which was terribly, but also trying to make sure that Cardinale and Redbird know that they're not just there to be brushed aside into this more modern type football team or club.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it does also have footballing repercussions. It is the stereotypical, maybe cliche thing to say is the extra man on the pitch, but it really is. San Siro will, if any of you have been lucky enough to go, you will know it gives you goosebumps all the time, and you can see how much it can impact a game. Also, that's why there's such a thing
Yeah.
as home court advantage.
Yeah,
Um,
just look at all ex players. It's get into you and say what's the most incredible stadium you played at that hasn't been a ground. Not only in the Serie A, I'm sure, but you look at Premier League when Milan was at its heights in Champions League. A lot of them will say San Siro is something different when that whole concrete block starts vibrating and shaking. 80,000 fans properly making that thing crack almost, right? It's on its final legs, but the
absolutely.
atmosphere is. I think any real football fan would have San Siro in the top five stadiums of all time,
Yeah,
or
agreed.
top three even. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be remodeled. We'll also see what happens if it's remodeled, turned down, if Milan Inter get their own stadium, if they get one more stadium, if the city sells them to them. It's
How
Italy,
many
so
times?
it will
How
take
many
another
times is
decade.
yeah? How many times has there been the proposal's been rejected? I think we've tried like 5 times,
Yeah,
and it's not
different
just like a
neighborhoods.
couple of.
Yeah,
It's not just like a little report, right? It's a lot of money that goes into these
yeah. It's
reports
probably why
because
the
it's not
Americans bought
just
the club so they could build this
yeah.
damn stadium.
Yeah, and it's not just like, oh, we found a plot of land that fits it. You've got to do all these different type of surveys and make sure that it's adequately sustainable. You've got enough flat traffic flowing into it, all this kind of stuff, which is fair enough because it's realistically 60. What is it, around 50, 60,000? It's always been looking at in terms of how big it's supposed to be spectator
Yeah,
wise. But yeah, that's another discussion. So are we on to our predictions? Do you
I think
think
we are.
for
We're running out of time. Friday night game, which is always strange. Um, I think it's so hard to say because we don't score right away. We go even 0-0 at halftime, and you start getting that nervous energy again, and you start getting shaken, you start getting desperate, and you start going too forward and leaving spaces. It's like with Inter or Napoli, you score in the first couple minutes. Now you can chill out. Now they need to come out, and then so the
and they
swings
score
from like
another four?
4-0 to losing 2-1 is much closer than you think. So
Yeah.
it's hard to predict. I think win. I think I don't know. They're so poor going forward, but I do think Kamara will score. I think we keep a clean sheet. Actually, we'll leave it at that. I already said Kamara that will score. I won't need to jinx it anymore. We Tottenham at the back. The couple chances that we give, we won't. We go and give again. And it's 2-0 us. Santiki minutes to make sure everyone chills out. And Christian Pulisic, because if we score, Pulisic always seems to score. That's it. That's it for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna be lame and say probably 2-0 as well. That sounds right. Goal scorers. I'm gonna go Modric and Pulisic.
I would love a Modric goal, actually. It'd be lit.
Yeah, I just feel
Also,
like he's
because
gonna
make sure he
score.
doesn't check out. I think a couple more losses and Modric might be like, you know what, maybe I'm going to start working a little bit more, make sure I get to this World Cup all in one piece and deuces, which
Yeah,
would be fair.
yeah. I'm just gonna go back and play for Dinamo Zagreb. Actually, I just chill out there.
Pretty much. All right.
Oh, have you seen? Also,
No.
just quickly talk about. I think it's Dinamo Zagreb or is it Hajduk Split? One of the two Croatian teams have failed. That can't be Dinamo Zagreb. It's another team, I think, from Croatia. I think it might be Split that is now for the ninth year in a row not qualified for the Champions League through Champions League qualification.
I did not see that.
I
That
think
is
they've lost on the
awful.
final. I think they've fallen either on the second to last or the last qualification game 9 years in a
Nine
row,
times
something like
in a
that.
row. Oh my
I
God. That
think
is
it's that.
awful
Yeah,
for their fans. That's awful for their finances.
they were not happy, their
Oh, that
fans.
is brutal. I
Like
saw some
they do
bad.
really well in the league, but they had like the fans. I think the game after they lost in the qualification, they went to the fans. After their league game, they were throwing flares and having a go at the
My
players,
God.
and
That sucks.
I guess kind of fair enough. But
Yeah, I saw him in some big upset. Obviously, Celtics goes down for the Kazakhstani team. That's going to be a long trip. Obviously, Bodo Glimt, most northern Champions League game of all time.
that December game will be interesting,
Yes,
and
whoever
January
draws
game.
them will be rough, especially if it's like a Spanish team.
It was like when
Um,
Arsenal went to Östersund a few years, like
yeah,
7, 8 years ago, and it was like -5 or minus
I mean,
six
there's a chance
already,
you take
and
like an 8-hour flight to Kazakhstan or wherever the fuck that is, And then you have to go play in minus 25 or whatever it is in Bodo
I
Glimt.
don't even think it's in Astana. Like, yeah.
It's
Anyways.
rough. It's real rough.
So 2-0
Blizzard,
for
you're
Milan.
welcome, by the way. He said thank you for the advice, putting my life. We both said 2-0, so it's, if only I said it, I wouldn't trust it. But if we both say it, it's pretty much a guaranteed result. So go bet on the 2-0. I don't know what the line
Gamble
is.
responsibly.
Not legal advice.
This is not legal advice. We're gonna get banned for 2 viewers.
Yeah. One of it is you, and Blizzard is going to report us.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think we leave it at that. We'll speak again.
Perfect.
After the Lecce game, international break. Again, I would be very annoyed, except that Milan is terrible. So maybe the international break helps us. And yeah, that's all. Thank you, as always, Ozzy, for accompanying me.
Thank you, Steph. Forza Milan.
Forza Milan.